Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, with some more unplugged wisdom, and I'm your humble servant, Mr. Smith. And I wanted to talk about the concept of adoption. Is it really adoption, or is it child trafficking for nefarious purposes? I mean, if you haven't noticed, our country is, the whole Western world for that matter, is not only financially bankrupt, but morally bankrupt. So, I wanted to explore this topic. I think it's important to raise people's awareness to what might really be going on. So I found this clip off PBS called The Youngest Migrants. And this is from 2016, I believe. So it was during the last year of the Obama administration, where Creepy Joe was vice president. So that'll help give you a little context when I show it. So not too long ago, about 5 years ago. And it talks about all these kids from Central America that just leave their families and on their own work their way to America, because America is just the salvation of the world, and these other countries just suck so bad they can't even take care of their own kids. All right, first of all, we got to stop that mentality. America's not the savior of the world, especially not now. And these other countries, they're not a bunch of buffoons. They're not children. Just because they don't have the 90-inch screen TV and 50 different cell phones in the house doesn't mean they're not capable of raising their kids. So there's something really wrong about this when a bunch of children allegedly just leave their families. What parents would want their children to leave and go to a completely foreign country? Are you kidding me? Now, there's something. This really stinks, is what it does. Let's just say there's something really wrong here. So, before I get into the clip, I want to talk a little bit about things that I've seen, and I don't want to make it too long because I'm trying to do shorter videos. I'm probably going to put a part 2 to this, or an addendum to this after this video. But when I was young, when I was in middle school, I befriended this guy, and he became one of my best friends for a time into adulthood. And it turns out his family is a very, very, or was a very, very well-off, wealthy entertainment industry family. His father was a behind-the-scenes guy in the entertainment industry, right? I won't reveal what he did, but his father hobnobbed with some of the biggest stars of the 1970s and early 80s. Anyway, but my friend had an older sister, and this older sister and her husband never had kids of their own. They couldn't. The report was they couldn't have their own kids. I have my suspicions about the sister, if you know what I mean, why she couldn't have kids. But again, those are just suspicions. But they didn't have their own kids. But they decided when they got in their 30s or so to adopt a child from Russia. Now, this couple had the financial means to afford any kid they wanted, really, if you think about it. My question is, why Russia? Why would you go halfway around the world? And I never saw this child until he was 12 years old. My friend moved out of LA, but his mother still lived in the same house. His father had passed away, and anyway, he came back to visit his family, and he called me up, and I went to their house to say hi to his mom, because his mom knew me and the family knew me. And this was my first glimpse at this Russian boy who is now 12 years old. And I swear, this boy looked like a 12-year-old Brad Pitt, all right, to give you an idea of what he looked like. And in my humble opinion, just by the way the boy was acting throughout the evening that, we're all hanging out, and the way the father talked to him, in my mind, he was already sexualized. And it freaked me out. When I drove home that night, I'll never forget, it just freaked me out. I'm like, oh my gosh. So, I also know a coworker who, him and his partner, adopted like 3 brown-skinned boys, right? They look Central American. It just makes me wonder. Okay, that's all I'm going to say. It makes me wonder. But I think this needs to be talked about. Now, there's so much I can say. I mean, but let's take a look at this clip, and we'll stop it periodically, and I'll comment on it. So, let's take a look at the clip.
Joe Biden is in Guatemala today, meeting with Central American leaders. He's hoping to get their help in stopping the surge of unaccompanied minors arriving in the U.S.
So, as we listen to Skeletor's wife here on PBS is, it's got to be reputable. It's real news. And NPR. Yeah, when I was young, I used to think, if I listened to PBS and NPR, that I was just higher level than the mainstream news. These news outlets are controlled by the same media companies, please. And this woman, she's got a big forehead. Look at that big head. Anyway, she's going to tell us in a very calm way the facts. Quote. And so Creepy Joe goes down to try to stop the flood of children just escaping to come to the United States for what? What are these children going to do when they get here? They're too young to have jobs. And even in 2016, the economy sucked. So were there really jobs for these kids, even if there were jobs? Which they're not, because they're too young. So what are these kids are going to do? There's just families lining up to adopt these kids. And what are the parents in these countries doing? They're just saying, go to America. Go to America. That's not a Central American accent, but go to America. You come back with big car with tail fins. And, get some bling bling. I mean, what is going on here? This is a bunch of crap. No parents doing that. Something really stinks. Okay? Now, I saw a video from 1981. It might still be up on the YouTube or the internet. A college professor in Texas, along with an investigative reporter, found that there was a huge, this is 1981, a huge sex ring, especially for underage boys. And they went to the police, and the police would do nothing about it. I forgot what it's titled, but if you can ever find that, it's if you want to know some ugly truth, that's worth listening to. So it makes me wonder about these boys and girls coming to America. Let's listen further.
The flood of children has become a crisis for the government as it scrambles for solutions. NewsHour reporter PJ Tobia prepared this report on why these children are coming and what's happening to them once they arrive.
Oh, God. Here comes the poster boy to make people think that it's just beautiful. He's made it to the United States. Oh, they always do this. Oh, my gosh. Well, let's see. Let's see what this cringe-worthy material is going to be.
Last year, 11-year-old Nodwin survived a journey that has killed many adults. He traveled from Honduras to the U.S. border overland almost entirely by himself.
Oh, he's so brave. Oh. Did you notice they said almost entirely by himself? Okay. Now you know damn well that this boy had help. Quote, help getting to the United States. And what kind of name is Nodwin? It's like Edwin, or maybe it should be Knobwin. Oh, what's going on? Why Nodwin? Oh, Nodwin, you're so brave.
He almost drowned crossing the Rio Grande River near Texas in an inflatable raft.
By inflatable raft. They paint this picture like he was in some one of those little inner tube thingies that that you take to the kiddie pool. No, more likely it was one of those badass Navy SEAL type inflatable boats, you know, like you see in James Bond movies and stuff. And by almost drowned, meaning he got a little water spray on him. Oh, God.
The boat suffered a puncture and I went under the water, but I managed to grab onto a piece of wood, and that's how I saved myself.
Oh, Nodwin. Kid, how much are they paying you to do this? Oh, you must be getting some serious money. Oh, I don't believe that for a second. Good job, Nodwin. Good job. Did you notice how feminine the interviewer's voice is? Just saying. Just saying.
He says he made this dangerous journey because his hometown in Honduras has been overrun by criminal gangs.
Oh my gosh. My city's overrun by criminal gangs too, and you don't see the children just leaving their parents to go to a foreign country. What a bunch of hoo-ha. Man, we got Bloods, Crips. What's the other one? Mexican Mafia. Gosh knows what else. Russian Mafia. Some of those Russian guys I've encountered lately in Los Angeles are some scary mofos. But you, come on. No children are leaving because of that reason. What a load of crap, in my humble opinion.
Big people force the children to sell bad things, and if they don't do it, they rape them or they kill them.
Nodwin once witnessed a boy his own age gang raped in a neighborhood park after the child refused to join a local drug gang.
They were stripping a kid naked, and I went to tell the kid's mom. Later I went home, but I didn't want to leave my house because they could have done the same thing to me.
He was living with his grandmother at the time, and his parents, undocumented immigrants who live here in Northern Virginia, quickly hired a coyote, or human trafficker, to bring their son through Mexico to the U.S. border.
Okay, so Nodwin says big people came and attacked the boy. Nobody says big people. He's old enough to say men or adults. Big people? What is... No, not buying this. And his parents are illegal here, so they just left him with his grandma. And now they hired a coyote to bring him over. So they just screwed themselves in this article. First they say he came over on his own, and now they're saying that his parents hired somebody to traffic him over. Hello? Busted. Get your story straight. Man, they must think we're just stupid. We're not paying attention to this stuff. And another thing, his home country is not so just lawless that fathers and men are going to allow gangs to rape their children. You know, I mean, that's bad for business. Gangs don't do that. If they're in the business of selling drugs, they want to keep a low profile. This stinks. I'm calling BS. Total BS. What's going on here? Anyway, let's move on.
His story is not unique. The government says that by May of this year, more than 40...
The government says. Oh, gee. Well, it's firmly established that we know the government lies constantly.
7,000 unaccompanied children were caught crossing the U.S. border. Between 60,000 and 90,000 are expected to come in 2014, according to the White House. That's more than twice as many last year, 3 times as many as in 2012. They come alone because many have parents here in the U.S. who are undocumented and can't easily leave and return to the country. The majority come from the Central American countries of Honduras, El Salvador, and Guatemala. They enter through the Rio Grande Valley section of the Texas border.
There have been an increase in gang activity in those countries, and there's also, not a very strong rule of law in those countries.
Okay, white woman. Like, you really know what's going on in Honduras, Guatemala, and the other one they mentioned. Sorry, I forgot. Give me a break. Oh. You know what this woman's doing? She's just doing this for her own ego. She doesn't know. She doesn't know. And again, it's like these countries are just so evil. America's the only good one, and oh my gosh. Man, part of the problem is our arrogance. We fall for this stuff. Americans, see, so great here. Hey, I'm an American, okay? This is my country. But we got to stop thinking it's just the be-all, end-all and epitome of society. I mean, my gosh. And then you've got, ladies, we love you, but come on, you got to stop with this you-know-it-all stuff. She probably is one of these, I have a PhD women that get on the Kevin Samuels show. I know everything. And I'm going to help these children. Oh, please. Notice the ring on her finger, and they're focusing in on that. I'm beginning to believe that part of the reason why this expose got put out there is to pander to women and young ladies. I mean, ladies, we love you, we need you, but you guys are more gullible than men. And you get emotional, and you feel sorry for these children, and you want to help them. And look at this lady. She's young, she's pretty, she's helping, she's doing good work. And she's got a nice rock on her finger, so she must have a very successful husband. Okay, I get the feeling part of the manipulation in this piece is to tug at the heartstrings of young ladies and provide a fantasy that they can do activist work and they'll be doing great work, but they'll be living in this huge house on the hill with a big rock on their finger. Just saying. Something to think about, but let's move on.
Jennifer Podkol is a senior program officer at the Women's Refugee Commission. She's interviewed hundreds of children who've made the journey from Central America.
They're seeking children of this age, and they're recruiting at schools, they're recruiting at youth centers, they're recruiting and going after children who are participating in youth groups and churches. So they're really targeting a particular age group.
Wait, is she talking about in the United States or in Honduras? Okay, we'll assume for a second she's talking about Honduras. Well, they have schools and churches and youth centers in Honduras. Man, it must be Must be a pretty good country. You gotta ask yourself the question, what do cocaine dealers need with 12-year-old boys and girls? What do they need them for? Nothing. Nothing. This is a bunch of crap. This woman doesn't know crap. I bet she's never even been to Honduras. You notice how they're not interviewing people, adults from Honduras or Guatemala or the other country. There's always that third one they mention. I keep forgetting, but you get the idea. This is crap. And she didn't say the gangs were targeting this age group. She just said they are targeting. Could it possibly be child trafficking organizations with a specific design in mind to bring him to the United States so that some wealthy elites can have fun in the sun? You know what I mean? Just saying. I know for a fact that there are kids that get kidnapped out of America, hundreds of thousands. Look at the FBI statistics. Where do those kids go? You think they might go to some foreign country where there's some elite guy over there wants a cute little American boy or girl? You know what I mean? Yeah. Anyway, let's move on. Well, real quick, I wonder if this lady has any clue. She might really believe what she's doing is right. You know, so we'll see.
The government says that compared to previous years, more of the children are under the age of 13. Roger Noriega is a former Assistant Secretary of State for the Western Hemisphere. He says the worsening violence in Central American countries is drug-related.
They sit in this corridor of cocaine trafficking northward to the U.S. market. Weak institutions in most of these countries, they don't have the capacity to resist.
Okay, number one, this Noriega guy, he's the Assistant Attorney General to the Western Hemisphere. I think they just admitted that there's a bigger government than the individual governments like the United States. Is that a United Nations position? Assistant Attorney General of the Western Hemisphere? What the heck is that? Just kind of gives us more evidence that there's a bigger government than the United States government running the show. Secondly, Noriega, he might be related to Manuel Noriega, the guy that was in cahoots with the Bush administrations back in the 80s and the working with the CIA. So who knows what this character is. And thirdly, you notice how they just throw in a bunch of random clips of, you see the Nicaraguan police, you see a body bag going into an ambulance, and you see a woman, looks like she's either blowing her nose or crying. Just random scenes of designed to manipulate you. It doesn't have anything to do with the topic they're talking about. My gosh. For you young people, I hope you're seeing how the media just manipulates you. They don't even have, there's no legal recourse if they're lying to you. They can just tell you lies all they want. Stories, narratives, who knows? Anyway, let's get back to it.
The criminality and violence that's associated with drug trafficking.
For children trying to escape the violence, the journey can be deadly.
Many of them, particularly if they don't have a lot of money, they'll ride on top of a train. So they refer to the train as La Bestia, the beast that travels through Mexico. A lot of people fall off the train. There have been accidents. Children have talked to me about seeing people fall asleep and then they fall off the train, or limbs getting cut off when somebody falls off of it.
After crossing the border,
the beast. Beware of the beast. Man, they're really laying this on thick. Kids falling off the train because they fell asleep. Kids losing their arms and limbs. Oh my gosh, they are really yanking at our heartstrings with this. Come on, people. Stop listening to this stuff.
Most children are caught by the Customs and Border Patrol Agency. Many just turn themselves in. So many are now coming that temporary shelters are being used. These images are from Border Patrol facilities in Brownsville, Texas, and Nogales, Arizona.
These stations are designed as short-term hold rooms. It's a very small room. It's just concrete. It has no window to the outside. There's no bed. There might be a toilet, but it's in a public area. And the children are just sitting there. Some are not given blankets. Some are not given any hot meals. They're only given cookies or juice. And they're there for up to 10 days, even 2 weeks.
Seems like it's kind of like the old Roman Empire days when they would have children in cages and in holding cells, and the Romans would come by and buy one for slaves, and for mostly physical pleasure. It's eerily similar, isn't it?
Weeks.
By law, 72 hours is the longest children can be kept in CBP custody. After, the children are turned over to the Federal Department of Health and Human Services, which tries to reunite them with their family. If they have no family, they remain in HHS custody.
Our focus is moving the children out of the facilities and to a sponsor for this period. While they are...
Yeah, sponsor, quote unquote.
With the sponsor, they are still fully subject to the removal proceedings.
After these kids arrive in the U.S. and are reunited with a parent or guardian, they usually end up in a juvenile immigration courtroom, like this one, to see if they qualify for asylum or a visa. If they don't, they're supposed to be deported. Last month, Nodwin sat right here. His attorney is preparing an asylum claim. But because of the number of children and adults coming to the U.S. every day,
lawyers are probably making good money. They're going to send their kids through college doing all this kind of legal mumbo jumbo. So they're in on it too. Interesting. Of course, not all lawyers. Just wanted to say that.
getting a hearing can take years.
Secretary.
Meanwhile, Republicans like Senator John Cornyn of Texas say the Obama administration has enticed children to make the journey. Last week, Department of Homeland Security Secretary Jay Johnson testified before Congress about the surge of child migrants.
There is this perception that the executive branch of the federal government is not enforcing the law because of talks about easing deportations.
I'm not sure I agree that that is the motivator for people coming in, for the children coming into South Texas. I think it is primarily the conditions in the countries that they are leaving from.
Yeah, I think you're a liar, sir. I'm sorry. I think you're a liar.
Conservatives argue that White House policies like deferred action for childhood arrivals, which allows some younger undocumented immigrants to stay in the country, have sent the message that now is the time to come to the U.S. illegally. Mark Krikorian is the executive director of the Center for Immigration Studies, which advocates for a tougher immigration policy.
The administration doesn't really oppose illegal immigration. I mean, the people in charge of immigration policy making in this administration don't really, in their heart of hearts, believe that we have a right to keep people out of the country.
You notice how they use the left wing and the right wing, the liberals and the conservatives, to endlessly skirt the real issue, which is the issue is it's a very realistic probability that these kids are being trafficked in. Okay? But they keep dancing around this illegal immigration issue. Interesting.
Who aren't murderers or drug dealers. In other words, sort of regular illegal aliens who just want a job.
As a senior advisor to President Obama for domestic policy, Cecilia Munoz is one of the people in the administration Krikorian is talking about. She denies White House policy is encouraging kids to come.
That argument would have you believe that these folks are leaving their countries, crossing all of Mexico alone in entering the United States in order to benefit from programs that they're not even eligible for.
She concedes there's a perception in Central America partly responsible for pushing families to make risky decisions.
There are false rumors that if you can get to the United States, maybe you can stay. Those are false, and we're doing everything.
Again, has this woman ever asked the El Salvadorians, the Guatemalans, about those rumors? I just still find it interesting that they're not asking any Guatemalans, El Salvadorians, they're not asking the president or any politicians in those countries about what's going on. So I don't think you know what you're talking about, lady. And number two, it's just more pandering that the United States is just the utopia of the world, you know, and everybody's just clamoring to get here.
We can to make sure that people in these countries understand that there are no provisions in the law to provide for these children to stay, that the border is not open for children.
According to a 2012 study by the Vera Institute, a nonprofit that researches court systems, many children are not granted relief from removal, despite having a legitimate claim to a visa or asylum. Immigration attorneys and experts say that most children are placed in removal proceedings within 1 year of arrival. Some of those who have been released can be difficult to track down and physically deport. Those with attorneys continue to fight.
Borders of the United States are not open, not even for children who come on their own, and that the deportation process starts when they get here, and we expect that it will continue for the vast majority of these kids.
Back in Northern Virginia, Nodwin is getting to know his parents, who left Honduras when he was just 5.5 months old. They didn't want their faces shown in this report.
When I saw them, I ran towards them and hugged them. And they told me, "Welcome to your parents' home."
He's allowed to stay in the U.S. while his asylum claim makes its way through the courts. He's also just finished his first full year of American school.
On my first day at school, I made a lot of friends. And from that day on, I made even more friends.
His father told me he wants Nodwin to one day play in the World Cup, but not for Honduras, for Team USA.
Oh, Nodwin. Oh, you just make me want to puke. Ugh. Yeah, I made new friends. And that interviewer. Ugh. Okay, I hope you see the pandering that's going on here. The smoothing over, if you will. Tell us smooth things.
This afternoon, the White House announced tens of millions of dollars of additional funding for security, economic, and repatriation programs in Central America. Meanwhile, House Speaker John Boehner urged the president in a letter to immediately send the National Guard to help deal with what he calls the national security and humanitarian crisis along our southern border.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I think that's enough for this video. I'm getting kind of burned out. I hope you see what I see. And what is the solution? And this situation is much deeper. There's a spiritual level. But always remember, pray. Pray for these children. Pray for all the children. That this madness stops. Pray to the Most High. And remember, Christ said, "Whoever shall offend these little ones," meaning children, "it would be better for those people to have a great millstone hung around their neck and thrown to the bottom of the sea." So, if this child trafficking is as pervasive as the statistics say, and that a lot of us believe is happening, these perpetrators will get their just desert. So please like and subscribe. I hope this raised your awareness. This is your humble servant, Mr. Smith, and we'll see you on the next one.